You're listening to We Act Radio, broadcasting live from Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue in D.C.
From We Act Radio studios in historic Anacostia, Washington, D.C., there are misunderstandings on all sides of issues around the Nation of Islam and the Jewish community. In recent weeks, we have seen calls for censure or resignation of a D.C. City Council member, and more recently, a member of the mayor's staff, amidst cries that these officials have perpetrated or failed to repudiate anti-Jewish sentiment. Meanwhile, some members of local Black communities have reacted to the sentiments from two Jewish members of the D.C. Council with calls to remove them from office. As the D.C. primary election on June 19th approaches, we are headed for a very troubled season, and this is a call for all concerned to make some time for some serious listening. I am Virginia Spatz, a freelance journalist working with We Act Radio in Washington, D.C.'s Ward 8. For a little background, I grew up in Chicago and have lived across the river in D.C.'s Ward 6 for 30 years. I'm a white person and a Jew who actively participates in several Jewish communities in town and beyond. I was at an event here at the radio station not long ago. A young man I've seen here from time to time over the course of years either noticed for the first time that I was wearing a kippah, sometimes called by the Yiddish word yarmulke, the head covering worn by many Jewish men and some Jewish women. Or perhaps with all the attention lately on Jews, he finally made the connection to, oh, hey, I didn't know you were Jewish. We chatted, and I learned that he doesn't know any other Jews and knows nothing at all about Judaism. He is not alone. In my experience, the only Jews many Ward 8 residents know, if any, are people who own businesses that employed them or their parents and grandparents, and the latter is mostly in the past now, as the area has changed over the years. Meanwhile, in my experience, people who live and work predominantly west of the river and spend a lot of time in Jewish communities often know very few people, if any, who live east of the river. They know very little about the real conditions or struggles. The only thing they know about the Nation of Islam is that its leader has said some horrible things about Jews. They know nothing at all about the history of the group or its current work. If they know about the nation's work in prisons or on the streets, attempting to engage youth most affected by gun violence at all, they dismiss it because of the anti-Jewish words of its leaders and some of its members. All of D.C.'s Jewish communities are centered west of the river and often very far, geographically, economically, and ideologically, from predominantly Black communities east of the river. Because of this, misunderstandings abide and grow, and there are precious few opportunities to dispel them. The Anacostia River is still a huge divide between us, and it's not the only such barrier. Moreover, attempts to join Ward 8 and Ward 6 for the purposes of selling more high-priced condos in what used to be a very low-income, almost exclusively Black area is not going to create any kind of understanding unless we come up with some new ideas. Things are getting worse. We have work to do. Some weeks ago, Councilmember Trayon White from Ward 8 tried to make some comments about the Resilient Cities program, which is funded by the Rockefellers. He mistakenly spoke instead about the Rothschilds and blamed them for trying to control the weather and then come in and profit off trying to help the city prepare for emergencies. I believe Trayon when he says he had no idea of the implications of his statements about the Rothschilds. I think it's really important to note that it was the Washington Post and other news outlets who turned this into a screed against Jews. I know Trayon from decades of community work, and I have never heard him utter a word against Jews. In a country where so many people don't know or recognize the term Auschwitz, it's not surprising that not everyone knows that Rothschilds is used as code for a whole set of theories about rich Jews controlling the economy. And they probably don't know either that such theories have led to discrimination and outright violence against Jews, including the death of millions during World War II. I also think it's important to consider that while the Rockefeller money looks innocuous to many, for others it means the mayor got to set up yet another damn office giving someone else, probably without any deep connections to Ward 8, a salary to decide about where funding goes, and then some commissions or committees make decisions that likely, as usual, leave community members in the dust. And meanwhile, Ward 8 residents are watching their family and friends be priced out of the area that was, for better or worse, theirs for so long. And then the first steps of gentrification involve a new kind of scrutiny and policing on the streets with fearful results. I do not think it's crazy for Black people in Ward 8 to believe that there is a whole system they will never understand or get a fair shake through that is making decisions about them without their best interests at heart. In one attempt to explain my own thoughts on this, I accidentally remarked that Trayon had confused the Rothschilds with the Roosevelts, when I meant the Rockefellers. I think this odd slip just goes to show that it's not so unusual to confuse a bunch of richer-than-God and care-nothing-about-you funders who all have names filed in our brains. I don't know enough about the Resilient Cities program to speak to its effectiveness, but I do know that residents of Ward 8 have heard it all before while being duped in very serious ways. And the ward is under attack right now from developers and a trend toward gentrification, which puts Black people in direct risk to violence from police as well as being priced out of their homes and businesses. Rabbi Shmuel Hertzfeld, a rabbi of an Orthodox community of which I am not a member, recently disrupted a D.C. council breakfast demanding this is not the time for elected officials to straddle the fence when it comes to confronting bigots. I would applaud if I thought Rabbi Hertzfeld meant that it was time to confront bigots who regularly denigrate residents east of the river and feel completely free to demonize a council member who represents Ward 8 without really attempting to know him or his community, as well as anti-Jewish bigotry. But I am ashamed to say that too many Jews are willing to insist that everyone confront anti-Jewish sentiment while not making serious attempts to understand the effects of systemic racism on our city and nation. Again, we have lots of work to do. We Act Radio is working on organizing some kind of dialogue, and we look forward to discussing this more in the future. This is Virginia Spatz from We Act Radio in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, what's up, y'all, man? It's your boy, Anwan Big G Glove of the Backyard Band, right here, man, at We Act Radio. Do something, man. We got so many things coming up for the city. We're going to Africa in February, to Ghana, to take Go-Go for the first time over to the motherland. It's going to be beautiful, man. We got a whole lot of different projects that we're doing with the youth in the city. We're filming documentaries all the way down to our life stories in the street and what we're doing. And the Uptown Quarter, also the South Side, and everything, man. Like rebuilding the hood and showing the young brothers how they need to be in this new generation that we call social media. So this is your boy Big G at We Act Radio, and I want the whole city to do something. Really, do something.
Hey, what's up? I'm Boots Riley. I'm the writer and director of Sorry to Bother You, which comes out in theaters July 6th. I'm here kicking it on We Act Radio.